Hey, how's it going, fellas? Here's a deck that I know a lot of people have some pretty strong opinions about here. We have Oppressive Vegeta. Of course, we are running the Fold Awakening stack. And, I think this deck definitely got weaker without VTP. I think a lot, like most decks, honestly, outside of pure aggro. But I think this is still a very, very strong deck. And I could see it definitely taking some rogue wins here and there. I don't know as far as an entire tournament, but definitely still respectable. And I think there is definitely some, new cards and new ideas that maybe could come up out of this deck. I think it definitely can compete, though. And I guess we'll get down to this list a bit. Now, this isn't really my deck. This is it's a mix, really. So it was my friend Darrick's deck. It still is. But what ended up happening is he didn't really play it much for a while. And then, of course, VTP got frozen. So I updated it a little bit for him. And, I splashed in a few new cards, as you can see, since this was last played. And we've been putting games on it, of course, but, some of these card choices are more of his than mine. But there are a few that I, of course, had some input in, and me and him have both put some games on it. I still think this is pretty strong. It still does the same stuff it does. You just don't have VTP anymore. But, you do have powerful new cards like On the Move and Saiyan Massacre, which both are very, very strong for the right matchup. I think this is still, like I said, I still think this is a very, very strong deck. I'm kind of just saying the same things about it, but, there's some people that really hate this deck, and, it still can be very frustrating to play against. But I think most decks can, withstand the storm against this deck. But these new cards are very strong in it. I think Saiyan Massacre is an incredibly awesome card, and I'm super pumped about it being in this deck, because Saiyan has had just terrible setup hate forever. But let's break down the attacks here. It's going to look pretty standard. I feel most Oppressive Vegeta decks are going to look pretty similar, but you're going to have your suite of anger energies, especially. Saiyan Burst being one of them. Awesome card. You get 2 anger with mastery. If you enter with it, you get to skip, of course, on your first styled attack. And one big thing about this deck is sequencing. You really want to know how to sequence your attack lines so that you're getting your most anger, or in some cases, you might not want to gain the anger. You might want to gain stages with your mastery, which you get every time you skip your opponent here. Now, of course, stick, cannon, PPV, and we do run Unleashed. And the whole idea of this deck is you got to really, really think about how you can maximize combat and dipping in and out. You're slowest in the beginning, which, again, this is a fast meta right now, and this is maybe why a lot of people don't play it, other than the fact that they're really frustrated by it when they do play against it. But again, I think you can build the right way. Next, we'll get on to Saiyan Rapid Fire. Now, this is a super cheap attack, awesome energy attack. This is pretty much staple in a lot of Saiyan decks. Very, very strong. Can't ever not take 5 from this. Awesome. Gets through, modifiers. Super great card. Again, this is going to be one that, as far as this deck goes, you have a lot of attacks that your opponent really does want to block. They really got to pick with this one, and you can really bait some people into throwing blocks at this, or you can bait people into thinking you have bigger energies, like your Gallic Gun here, or even your Final Flash. Your blinding energy moves can be pretty devastating once you get up to the higher levels. Massacre is a great one to follow up. Burst, you might want those certain cards. Chest Blast. This is a great card no matter what, and you really punish your opponent if they don't block this. Saiyan Energy Outburst. Now, this is a card that definitely has floated in numbers in this deck. Me personally, when I modify this deck, to kind of bring it up to legality, I bumped it up to 3. I think it was at a 2 before. I'm pretty sure I bumped it to a 3. I think it was at 2 before, but especially with Mischievous getting played so much, this card does so much work. I mean, you have a pretty decent matchup against Mischievous purely because of this card and Final Flash, just shutting off their mastery, and on top of the fact that you just don't interact with them at all. You're just jumping in and out of combat with this deck. Really nice card. I like that it's free, 6 life cards. If you even find yourself stage locked against a lot of the physical decks, you can throw this first, get your stages, and then throw another energy, and it's really awesome. Really awesome card. Only downside to it is it doesn't have endurance, but otherwise really awesome. Another awesome card. This card, Chest Blast, is really awesome. I keep saying awesome. It's hard to block. Final Flash is another card as such. But this is a card that you definitely always follow up second because it gives you a skip. And again, sequencing is very big in this deck. You know, you got to know when you want to enter with a handful of freestyles in this card. Do you really want to waste the skip on this as your first action, you know, just to follow up with a freestyle? Or do you even want to play this card at all, you know, in the combat? Do you want to pass? I think there are definitely some just really good decisions that you have to make, especially when stages are a problem in certain matchups. But this card does draw you card, which is really nice if it hits. And generally speaking, it usually does hit. It's hard to kind of stop. So you usually get through block shields with it really easily. But drawing in combat can kind of hurt when you're against Mischievous. So, but it's still one of the bread and butter cards that Vegeta got in set 10 when this came out. Very, very, very good energy. Still good. We have 3 Saiyan Spin Kick. Of course, this is an immediate anger card. It's free because it's a physical. Awesome card. You know, killing allies is always good. Really, it's just mostly here for the anger. Because again, you're going to be times where you really, really need anger to be able to just jump your levels in combat. So that's what this is really in here for. And it's got 2 endurance. That is the only problem about these 3 cards. There's no endurance on them, but their effects are really good, so that's why we got it on the deck. Of course, we have Saiyan Gut Kick. You need skips. Skipping actions is what you want to just get more anger or stages when you need it. And again, you're just trying to kick out as many actions as possible with this deck before your opponent gets a say. It's mostly in here just for the stage recovery or for the 2 stages, or sorry, rather the anger, so you can try to chain up a level. And we'll explain, if you don't know what Vegeta does, of course, I keep talking about his dipping in and out of combat. Of course, when you advance through his levels, your opponent either has to attack or pass on his level 2. His level 3 and 4 both make your opponent pass for the next action. So the idea is that you're entering combat and you're just skipping them with these actions. And when you hit these levels, they have to pass. So by the time you're done skipping them, you could have hit this level in an action and then skipped them once or twice. And by the time they come to it, when they get an action, you know, you might have thrown 3-4 attacks, then they gotta pass, and then you just pass too, and the combat's over. And that's why people find this deck really, really frustrating. And I think that is probably still the reason why people don't play it as much, or weren't really. There were too many people actually really playing this in force. There were handfuls of people here and there. I know Miguel Gonzalez. He ran this deck and won over. I think it was the West Kai, one of the California tournaments last OP season, you know, and that's what he won with. And it's a very strong deck, and I think a lot of people weren't willing to play it, or just weren't willing to, I think really just weren't willing to play it. It was really strong. Very, very strong deck. But even now, I think it's strong. We have, of course, the 2 main energy attacks that you really, really want to see in a lot of matchups are Final Flash. This card just destroys Mischievous, destroys Unleashed decks, destroys any decks that are really not wanting to just attack. You guys sequence this right sometimes, especially when you have Unleashed in hand. But very, very strong card. Can kill a lot of actions for your opponent, and you can combine this really, really well with the levels 3 and 4. Especially the level 4, because this is can only stop by energy combat cards too. It makes it hard to stop, but if your opponent decides to stop it on level 3, you get to use it twice, of course, being a freestyle attack. Vegeta lets you use any freestyle attacks that get stopped, well, the first one rather, each combat twice, which is something to consider when you're sequencing with him, that you get to use an attack twice if you think your opponent's going to block it. But also, if this card attack does hit, you can drop your MP level and make your opponent random discard. Well, one thing to remember is this level 3 here, if you hit it at all, whether you advance to it or you are dropped to it, you make them pass. So if your opponent decides to ball to you, or if you're on level 4 and you decide to use the hit effect, which level 4 ensures that you're going to get the hit effect, it makes all your freestyles unstoppable and dealing +3 life cards. Because of that, you can pretty much always get this off on 4 and into combat. So that is just another one of the combos. But this card is really, really incredible. Very, very strong card. It gets really, really powerful as you level up. All your freestyle attacks in this deck do a lot of damage as you're leveling up. And it's a critical attack on level 2. Next thing we have here is Gallic Gun. Of course, this has been, since set 1, one of my favorite cards in the game. I used to love playing Villain Vegeta, OG Villain Vegeta, not Majin Vegeta. I do like Majin Vegeta, though. He's very interesting MP. But Gallican here, great card. You can deal double crit damage. This is just double your opponent's anger, double ally white, double ball cap. This card is so awesome. It always is unpreventable. And as you're going up in your levels, it's getting modified a ton. Right at level 1, it's coming out for 8 life cards hot, unpreventable. That is almost a 6 of your opponent's deck getting knocked out. I think it would be, if you really do math, it's like a 7th of their deck getting knocked out by this card. So strong. And again, the biggest thing with this deck is sequencing those freestyles in, so that way you can still get the levels in combat, but still a very strong card. And it also gives you anger, just like Final Flash gives you 2. This one gives you 1. This is probably the best on level 4, where it comes in unstoppable for 9 life cards. This is a game closer. Like, if you get to level 4 and you have Galax still in your deck, or Finals in the deck, they are game closers. They just completely... It's just ridiculous. Next we have Saiyan Massacre. Now we're starting getting the 2-ofs, and this is where kind of I can see like maybe people have different opinions. For the most part, I feel all these other attacks you need to kind of have at a 3. I could see the argument for Outburst, maybe Chest Blast, but Saiyan Massacre, this card's amazing. It's kind of like a counterpart to Red Energy Blast, except you don't get to kill allies. But with Vegeta, you crit so much with all these attacks. You have Gallican, Rapid Fire. You have a 6 life card, Energy Outburst. You have Final Flash, that's 4 life cards, but it gets modified to 6, and it's unpreventable on your level 2. In this card, it's 6 life cards as well. They're just these big attacks. All of these attacks are coming in. A lot of them are 5, 6, 7 life cards. But this card can kill some pile. Oh, sorry, not kill some pile, sorry. It kills your pile. You don't get to actually use the rejuvenate this after use part because you're not the Majin, but really it's the lower the anger 2 part is really awesome, because before you didn't really have a good answer that was energy for the anger lowering. But now you do have this. Now again, it fights for stages when you're playing cards, but it's nice that it's a style card, and you can go in and clear some board. Oh my god, I'm sorry. I'm saying it doesn't kill allies. It doesn't kill drills. That's what it doesn't do. I gotta read this card. I'm actually just looking at this through the screen, and I'm not really reading it because it's a little blurry for me, but no, this card is great. Either way, it's, like I said, counterpart to Red Energy Blast. They both do different things. It sucks it doesn't kill drills. It's kind of just meta-dependent. I think it's still an awesome card. And I'd love to put it at a 3, but stages and tech, I don't know. Generally speaking, Vegeta doesn't really care about board too much, because he either attacks through it with things like Chest Blast or Final Flash, or he crits it, or he just, plays around it. He's just not giving your opponent actions. But it's good to have some board clear. And that's another reason why we have this card here, Saiyan Energy Focus. Now this is one of my favorite Saiyan tech cards rather. It comes in, it looks really underwhelming at first when you read it, just the 3 life cards, but it is incredibly strong. Now this card can shut off all sorts of cards. And I love this with Future Gohan, Empowered. This is still a really great card. Being able to enter a combat, and you play this as your first action and get the skip with the Mastery. You shut off drills, setups. It's just like Final Flash. You kill so many of your opponent's actions. Now you don't get to kill masteries or personalities, but that's fine. You can shut off board blocks. You can shut off searching techniques. You can shut off combat enders if you want to stay in combat. It does suck. You can shut off attach cards. It does suck that you have to choose 3 cards. So it can be kind of detrimental if you do actually get bored out, like the Saiyan Rage. But you can shut off Dragon Balls with this. You can shut off multi-use attacks like Double Strike, Shattering Leap, Tian's Tri-Beam. If for some reason they left it out for an action, I don't know. They'd never do that. But Spirit Ball, Spirit Ball. You shut off Dragon Balls. You take a Dragon Ball and you don't want your opponent to use the effect, shut it off. Or you want to take your opponent's ball 5 and they have a ball 1 out. Oh, you shut off ball 1. Okay, now I can go crit the ball 5. Super versatile card. You can shut off wall breakers with this, shut off whatever you need to. It's so strong, and it used to be at a 3 of in this deck before Massacre came out, and I think it is a good 2 of. I think it's still a good 2-of. Definitely can always play with number, but I think this and Massacre are really good 2-ofs in this deck specifically. Maybe you want it as 3, maybe you don't even, maybe you don't see the use of, Focus, or maybe Massacre just doesn't do it for you. I really think these are good 2-of cards, though. And, again, I think 2-of cards in any deck, for the most part, are going to be subjective to how you feel about those cards yourself in the matchup. But for me, they're really good 2-ofs. I've actually been playing this deck more than I ever have ever since the VTP nerf. I actually kind of enjoy playing this deck quite a bit. And I never thought I'd say that, because I thought it was... I didn't ever find it OP, personally. But it was just, kind of annoying. But I was also never a Vegeta player. For this stack, for the most part, I made, Tag, and that was it, way back when he came out. I mostly kind of just, let my buddy, Darrick, play him. And then I pretty much, if Darrick's playing an MP, I pretty much just don't touch it, because I play against it all the damn time. But, you gotta love your testing buddies. So anyway, we get up to the final of the attacks here. Final bits of the attacks. We got Blinding Energy move. Of course, you want to dip out of combat. You just want to enter, skip, end combat. This is what this is for. It's freestyle attack, so it gets buffed up in modifiers by... use my other hand here. Gets bumped up by your levels, because all of your levels give a modifier to your freestyle attacks. Of course, you have Heroic Dashing Punch, again, skipping. This gives you 2 anger with the mastery. You can stop decks from gaining anger. Really, really awesome. People gotta kind of choose. They know, generally people will think that you have this in your deck, and they really gotta kind of choose if they're gonna enter on you. If they want to hold a block for your energies, or if they want to hold a block for this, or what, and you can really surprise people with this card quite a bit. And this really helps you cheese out some extra anger. And it being a freestyle, you can, lead this card in combat into a styled card, and you're already at 2 anger. And if you throw a styled card, you skip them. If, let's say, they didn't lower your anger, you're already at 3 anger. And now you just throw a Final Flash. You level to, say, level 3 or 4, and now they have to pass. And just like that, you got 3 actions without your opponent getting to do anything. And you just pass 2 in combat. So strong. Now, Quick Blast, this is definitely a card I think is subjective. I think this is a great 1-of, maybe even 2-of, depending on the meta. Super, super strong in certain decks. With the influx of Supreme Kai, could totally see this getting to 2. At the same time, even when VTP was a thing, with Time as a Warrior's tool, this was still at a 1. I think it worked fine for Darrick. I don't remember him. He might have maybe ran this at 2 at one point, but I think he always ended up cutting down to 1 whenever he would try to bump it up. I think it's just a super strong card. What's nice is that if you are afraid of it getting knocked off and you want to keep it, you can shuffle it back in your deck. Just to keep it alive for other Unleashed times, or if you want to draw it. And, with your level 1, at least it's a 6, you can turn it into a 6 life card attack, with your level 1 alone, or it's a critable attack on your level 2. So maybe there's another reason to run it at 2, but mostly in this deck, you really want to emphasize the style attacks, so that's really another reason why this is only at a 1. It's purely there to just be an Unleashed target, for the most part, but still a very, very respectable card, especially with Vegeta. So now we get on to the blocks. Blocks, for the most part, I think most people are always going to be playing these two blocks, both of which make your opponent skip. Again, that's the name of the game, being able to skip your opponent, throw a bunch of attacks out. What's really great is on the defensive, is if you get entered on, you're able to, play these as a block. If your opponent entered on you, you get to play one of your freestyle attacks, then they got to skip, and then you play one of your style attacks, and then they got to skip, and then you play another attack, and you level, and you get out of combat. It's just really frustrating for your opponent to deal with you if they don't have defensive anger lowering, which not a lot of people really do, and a lot of people run, and that was one of the reasons why a lot of people started. That's again another reason why people were starting to switch to protective decks, but and which was another reason why Kevin Dennis did really well with Protective Future Gohan, is because you could he ran literally any card that just lowered anger, and I've noticed more people kind of playing that style. It's not like it's something that kind of is still around now with a lot of guys over at East Kai playing these protective decks. Now, granted, they are more playing them for the block potential, I feel, with this aggressive meta that we're in, more so than the anger lowering, but it's still something to respect about protective mastery. And this is a deck that really punishes you if you don't have a way to defensively lower anger, and it I think keeps people humble. That being said, it's not really around anymore, so I don't know, maybe it's the time for it to bring it back. Hint, hint. I suppose we'll get onto the board and then we'll go to the events. Even though it's kind of reversed for order, I usually like to close out with the board. But Saiyan Raged, you know, another 2 anger card. You sequence this generally to either end combat after you've dumped your entire hand and you have an action, or you know, you want to dig in your deck a little bit more. Super good card. You know, 2 anger and drawing a card is always nice. So even if you get into these combats where you start out 0 anger and you kind of want to just like pop off those first, super strong card. And again, it's always like a get out of jail free card potentially. If your opponent doesn't have board clear and you're sitting at like 2 anger or 3 anger in a combat and they enter on you, you can always just skip your way up and then pop one of those. Now again, most time the biggest grind in this deck is getting off of 1 to 2 and then making sure that you don't get stuck on 2. You can usually get off 1, but you can definitely get your head kicked in quite a bit, especially by like Deborah, because he has so many anger lowering physicals. Red Ruthless can kind of do the same thing to you if you're not drawing the blocks, and in those matchups, those are kind of like the ones that you really want to dig into your deck quickly for blinding energy move. Hero Dashing Punch, Ball 7, Earth Ball 7 here, Unleashed. Those are the cards that are really your get out of jail cards against those decks. We have Saiyan pregame. I've talked about this card in like every Saiyan deck ever wants to run this card. It's just so damn good. And this card being, when it was at limit 3, was a big part of why Vegeta was so strong. You could never enter on him and catch him on a bad hand. He would just skip you, immediately get in anger, and then just do his skip shenanigans. Thank God this is limit 1 now. That really took a toll on this deck too, between that and VTP going. That really slowed this deck down. But also Majin Vegeta being a thing right now is another reason why you don't see Oppressive Vegeta anymore. But if you kind of like are counting on a lack of Majin Vegeta, I still feel like this deck is worth running. He does get around that too, but this is still a really great card. And if you see it, you love it to death. So we have Earth Ball 7 and Earth Ball 3. Now, Earth Ball 7 is like a no-brainer. It ends combat. But Earth Ball 3, this was Darrick's idea. This is something very Darrick. He likes playing all these ball decks, and so he wanted to run Earth Ball 3, just because, hey, you take my ball, well, look at all these critable attacks here. Yeah, so why not? And, out of combat anger, on your turn, dropping this to get you an extra anger to help you hit that skip, that anger potential to level up quicker. Super nice. Super nice. Works really well. We got 3 sphere. You got to protect your Unleashed. Confro takes an action. You don't want to spend time action. You don't want to spend an action when you'd rather be like throwing an attack. So sphere is just gonna kill all those pesky events like Orange Meditation, Confro, Unleashed. That's gonna protect your Unleashed. Super strong. Of course, like one of the main cards in the deck is Unleashed. You're going to abuse the shit out of this card in this deck to just be able to just jump your levels. Hitting level 3s and 4 with this just to end combat on people when they're just starting to go off or something, or when you can't skip your anger. Super powerful. Of course, we have a new addition here. We got On the Move. This is definitely a card that kind of... I don't even know how I really feel about this card. Some matchups I really hate. Hate. It's kind of like Black Delay to me. That card can be really strong, like almost overpowered in some matchups. And I think with Mischievous, it's really terrible. But then at the same time, there's times where you have this card in your hand. I think On the Move is worse than Black Delay in the sense that there's times on you don't want to give your opponent back the attack. It just kind of depends on the MP. Vegeta, we just really want to dig in the deck quicker, and giving the stages back is super important in this deck to be able to play your energies in case you got stage locked or something. So I think this is definitely a good 2, even a 3. Now we have it at 2 right now. This is kind of what Darrick has got it at, and kind of what me and him kind of figured would be a good number to start off the test. And I do really like it at 2. Maybe it'll go to 3, kind of just depending on if I feel like I have a slot for it. But I really have enjoyed it in this deck. Very powerful with Vegeta. And of course, we rounded out with Saiyan Rescue, an attached card. Really great card. It's really nice for one of those combats where you kind of can't really get out. You just want to put certain cards back in your deck. Really good. There's enough there's like a decent amount of shuffling in the deck, between Unleashed. Really just kind of Unleashed, but but I suppose you could do Quick Blast 2 to shuffle your deck, or Ball 3 will shuffle your deck. But also time, you need time. And I guess I forgot to mention, we do have one more attack, Tracking Blast at 2. This is just to protect you from getting, your level hit by Ball 2s or Unleashed. So, but anyway, this is Oppressive Vegeta deck. I think for the most part it's pretty straightforward. I think, some card choices might differ, like that Ball 3, for example. Or, beyond the moves, maybe your number of energy focus, Saiyan Massacre, might be different. Maybe you run more physicals in here. Maybe you don't run as many energy outbursts. But for the most part, I think this is a pretty standard list. I could, see people floating it. Maybe some people only run one Tracking Blast. I think that's just kind of how this game goes, though. You can kind of definitely play with numbers a little bit to your own matchups and stuff. But I think this list is very solid. I think, definitely Majin Vegeta hurts this. If Majin Vegeta can just sit on a level 2. So maybe that would be a reason to maybe run I'll Dig Your Grave in this deck. I could see that being definitely could be an ad. I think this deck really just craves a style interaction so much, though. But maybe that's a way to remedy your woes against Majin Vegeta, because really Majin Vegeta, you just have to worry about his level 2. Otherwise, his level 3 don't really matter. When you're just going to skip the hell out of him, and you're probably going to be popping your Enraged if you ever get that on the board before he ever does anything. But I hope this kind of gives people an idea. I hope this kind of maybe makes people reconsider this deck, maybe trying it out a bit and seeing how they feel about it. I think there are definitely ways to get around. The real counter, I think, right now is Majin Vegeta. And I think just like the loss of consistency from VTP and pregame going it down or away. But I still think it's respectable. Maybe not enough to be the tier 1 that it was anymore, though. I think I definitely kind of like underneath that. But you could maybe run this in the right format and really sack some games. That's kind of how I feel about Saiyan Raditz. And that's kind of how I feel like my own personal Mischievous Wheelo was. Just had the right event, the perfect storm. So, but yeah, hopefully you guys enjoyed this video. Love it if you guys commented below and gave me some feedback. Thanks.